Alright, hello everybody. Friendly Red here, and I'm ready to turn the page over to my initial impressions of the Plucky Squire, the debut game from developer All Possible Futures. If you watch my Red's Radar for this month, then you know that this was one of the games I was really looking forward to, and I'm not only ecstatic that it's finally here, but I'm happy to report that, so far, it is just as lovely, charming, and fun as the visuals we've seen since this game first debuted all the way back in 2022. For the unaware, a quick rundown should prove useful, as always. The Plucky Squire is a combination 2D and 3D action-adventure game, reminiscent of the top-down 2D Legend of Zelda titles. In the game, you'll take on the role of Jot, the titular Plucky Squire, as he's caught up in yet another one of his many storybook adventures. As you may have surmised from the visuals, and my previous sentence, the game takes place within the confines of an illustrated storybook, which itself lies within the bedroom of a child named Sam. The visual style and presentation is of course at the forefront of this concept, but it does go deeper than just affecting the look of the game, though more on that in a moment. At its core, the Plucky Squire should feel quite familiar to anyone who's played any of the aforementioned 2D Zelda games it's inspired by. However, more so than in those titles, the top-down view in the game actually is contextualized here, as the viewpoint makes sense when you think about how this is what it would look like if you were looking at an open book laid out on a desk or table, which is exactly what is here in the game. In typical gameplay, you'll traverse the world of the Plucky Squire from this top-down view, with movements between different sections of the map or world causing an appropriate page flip to occur. Along the way, you'll engage in simple but effective combat with Jot's sword, and solve puzzles every now and then to progress further. On the combat front, Jot's fairly limited at the start, with only a simple sword swing combo available. However, as you progress further in the game, you can purchase new attacks with the currency you earn, such as a sword toss and overhead strike, and buy buffs to your currently unlocked moves, which should give the combat a bit more complexity, and expand your options during it as the adventure continues. As for the puzzles, from what I've seen so far in the game, they really like to play along with the idea that they're in a book, as you'll usually have to find different words from spoken dialogue or descriptions on the pages you traverse to alter phrases, which can thus open new paths, or potentially drastically change the whole environment around you, letting you discover new paths or other words, items, and so on to complete the puzzles. So yeah, the game does much more with the whole within a storybook concept than just base its visual identity around it, and it's really cool to see what puzzles and other things pop up as you progress through the book. And I'm sure they'll only get more involved and interesting as I continue on. Oh, and as a quick aside, going back to the whole inspired by 2D Zelda games, there have even been some sections where the game goes full-on 2D side-scroller, which instantly reminded me of Link's Awakening, and I suppose the upcoming Echoes of Wisdom, as I believe that game will also feature some side-scrolling sections as well, from what we've seen so far. Of course, I did say this was a combination 2D and 3D adventure, and this is where things get even more interesting. Rather early on in his latest adventure here, Jot runs into his arch-nemesis, Humgrump, who reveals to Jot that he's not only found out that he, Jot, and the rest of the people he knows are all just characters within a storybook, but that he has gained a special power that allows him to force said storybook inhabitants out of the pages, which he demonstrates rather quickly on Jot, forcing him out of the book known as the Plucky Squire and onto the real-life desk of Sam's bedroom. This was a huge discussion point around the game back when it was revealed, and it was still super cool to see in action, but when I saw this in game, it got me thinking, imagine if they somehow had kept the whole 3D out-of-the-book segments of the game secret this whole time. It would have made for an even more impactful and surprising moment, but I also understand that it was important for the marketing and appeal of the game. Either way, I think it would have made for such a jaw-dropping surprise if they somehow managed to keep it under wraps, but I digress. Once Jot is out of the book, the game goes full 3D, and after a brief tutorial going over the mechanics and controls of the out-of-the-book world, Jot gains the ability to not only jump in and out of the book, he also gains the ability to physically manipulate the pages of the book itself while he's out of it, letting him return to previous pages. This adds yet another layer to the puzzles in the game, as you may need to hop in and out of the book to progress, or perhaps turn back to an older page, grab something from it, and then return to the current page to continue. In addition to this interplay between the outside world and the book world, Jot can also utilize sketches found across Sam's desk to traverse normally difficult terrain, gain altitude, move objects between areas, and more. I'm very curious to see what some of the later 3D sections will entail, as the initial one, aside from being a tutorial, played more like a stealth game, as because Jot didn't have his sword, he had to sneak around and be wary of the bugs that were scurrying around Sam's room. The most recent 3D section I did before writing the script had me traverse a decently sized block fortress that was set up on Sam's desk, but because I had my sword this time, it played mostly like the 2D sections of the game, just, well, in 3D. With some swapping back and forth going on as well, due to those sketches I mentioned earlier. So on the whole, I think the Plucky Squire delivers the goods, and not just in the visuals department. Though, my god, this game just looks so amazing during the 2D segments. I seriously love looking at it. Could probably go on and on and on about how much I love, and that's not to say the 3D segments look bad, far from it. I actually think it looks very respectable and quite realistic, especially here on PC with maxed out settings. All the little trinkets and doodads littered around Sam's desk look very accurate, with great materials, textures, and overall detail at a very respectable level. But come on, this is just more fun to look at, you know? Lastly, while I don't want to spend too long on this or show too much of it, as I think it's best experienced firsthand, there are some very cute and creative special encounters that alter Jot's appearance, change up the normal controls, and give him a unique ability to use for a little minigame. I imagine I'll be seeing a few more of these as the game continues, and I cannot wait to see what else is in store and what they might reference or entail. So the visuals are absolutely wonderful, the combat is simple but effective, the puzzles are clever and do a good job of using the storybook setting to their advantage, and the dynamic of swapping between 2D and 3D action adventure platforming is just really cool and always fun to do, and adds to the variety and charm of the game. With all that in mind, I can happily say that the Plucky Squire has met my expectations I had for it, and I've greatly enjoyed what I've played of it so far. Similar to Astrobot from earlier this month, the Plucky Squire just radiates pure joy, and while it may not be the most complex game, or all too difficult and challenging, I think it nails what it set out to do. Be clean, simple fun that anyone, regardless of age or skill level, can enjoy. Also, please play this game on an OLED display if you can, because, man, it elevates the already amazing visuals and art to the next level. But, with all that being said, I think that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, I thank you for watching. Your continued viewership and support is greatly appreciated. I hope I was able to relay my thoughts well, and hopefully get you interested in checking out this lovely little game featuring the pluckiest of squires. And, as always, I'll see you next time.